The Lamb and the Scroll, Revelation 5, 1-14. Revelation 5, 1-14. Then I saw in the right hand of the one sitting on the throne a scroll, with writing on its front and on its back, sealed with 7 seals. And I saw a powerful angel proclaiming in a loud voice, "Who is worthy to open the scroll and to undo its seals?" And no one in heaven nor on the earth was able to open the scroll or to look inside of it. And I began to cry much, because no one was found worthy to open the scroll or to look inside of it. And one of the elders was saying to me, "Don't cry. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David. He has won the victory so as to be worthy to open the scroll and to undo its seals." And I saw in the midst of the throne and of the 4 living creatures, and in the midst of the elders, a lamb standing there, looking as if he had been slain, with 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent out into the entire earth. And he came and took the scroll from the right hand of the one sitting on the throne. And when he took the scroll, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each with a lyre and golden bowls of incense, which incense is as prayers of the saints, that is, Christ's sacrifice which validates our prayers is represented by the incense. And they sang a new song, saying, "You are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals, because you were slain and have purchased with your blood for our God men from every tribe and tongue and people and nation, and have made them into a kingdom and priests to our God, and they will rule upon the earth." And I looked and heard, as it were, the voice of many angels around the throne and around the living creatures, and around the 24 elders, and their number was myriads upon myriads and thousands upon thousands, and they were saying in a loud voice, "The Lamb who has been slain is worthy to take the power and wealth and wisdom, and might and honor and glory and blessing, and every created thing in heaven and on the earth and in the sea and everything in them." Then I heard them saying, "To the one who sits upon the throne and to the Lamb be the blessing and the honor and the glory and the power for ever and ever." And the 4 living creatures were saying, "Amen." And the 24 elders fell down and worshipped. In chapter 4, John gave us a detailed description of the glorious scene in God's heavenly temple. Chapter 5 begins the heavenly prelude to the tribulation, the initiation of the process, through tribulation, of the re-establishment of direct divine rule over the earth in the person of the Messiah, our Lord Jesus Christ. It is important to remember that this book of Revelation is about Jesus Christ. That is, it authorizes, describes, and effects the revelation of him to the world. And so it is fitting that he be introduced last in this description of the heavenly scene for the purpose of emphasizing all that is about to take place, that is, the events which must precede his return. The description of the Messiah's inauguration of the tribulation through his opening of the book or scroll, as a prelude to his assumption of power over all the earth, is very closely parallel to the similar description in Daniel chapter 7, which follows Daniel's vision of the 4 beasts, the last of which represents the kingdom of Antichrist. I kept looking until thrones were set down, and the Ancient of Days, that is the Father, took his seat. His attire was white as snow, as was the hair of his head, white like the purest wool. His throne was aflame with fire, and its wheels were a blazing fire. A river of fire was flowing, and it poured forth from before him. Thousands upon thousands were ministering to him, and myriads upon myriads were standing before him. The court was seated and the books were opened. Meanwhile I kept looking on account of the sound of the arrogant words which the horn Antichrist was speaking. I kept looking until he was killed, and his body destroyed and given over to the burning fire. As for the remaining beasts, their dominions were taken away, but an extension of life was given to them for an appointed time and season. I kept looking during my vision of that night, and behold, with the clouds of heaven one like a son of man was coming up, and he approached the Ancient of Days, that is the Father, and they brought him before him. And to him was given dominion and honor and a kingdom, so that all nations and peoples and tongues should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which will not pass away, and his kingdom one which will not be destroyed. Daniel 7:9-14. In this passage, wherein Daniel is focusing upon the end of the tribulational period, we nevertheless find a number of important similarities to Revelation chapter 5, where the scene described is just prior to its commencement. The appearance of the Father is similarly described. In both passages he is seated in state in his capacity as ruler and judge of all. This serves to emphasize the character of the proceedings in both passages, as in the nature of a judicial and/or regal pronouncement. God's control and disposition of history are clearly in view. The angelic court is comparably described, with their uncountable numbers expressed in near identical language. Multiple thrones are mentioned in both passages, and the fact that they are set up on this particular occasion in the Daniel passage indicates that, as we have suggested, rather than being a continual situation, the session of the angelic elders is a special preliminary to the tribulation and the second advent which follows it. The proceedings themselves are also comparable. In both cases, a written record figures prominently, and in both cases, these books or scrolls contain the decrees of God which form the basis for the attendant judgment. Compare the analogous situation preceding the Great Flood, Psalm 29:10. Parallel too is the fact that the judgments which precede the Messiah's assumption of power serve the purpose of vindicating God's persecuted people. The picture and presentation of the Son is similar, though Daniel's vision includes by conflation the ascension which has already historically taken place by the time of John's vision, and the judgment of Satan with its concomitant filling up of the lake of fire. Finally, the results of the proceedings are identical, with dominion over the earth given to the Messiah. A major part of the significance of the similarities between these two passages, to be sure not the only resemblances to be found between the books of Daniel and Revelation, is the point that in both books the process of divine regal judicial judgment upon the earth and upon the forces of evil which control it is an essential preliminary step and a necessary prerequisite to the Messiah's return and to the establishment of his universal rule. Simply put, both Revelation and Daniel tell us plainly that the tribulation is part and parcel of the revelation of Jesus Christ, the birth pangs of judgment which must precede the wondrous birth of his glorious kingdom. And Jesus answered and said to them, "See to it that no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, that is the Messiah, and they will deceive many. And you are going to hear about wars and reports of wars. See to it that you are not shaken by these reports. This must happen, but it is not yet the end of the tribulation. For a nation will rise up against a nation, even a kingdom against a kingdom, that is, the Northern Confederacy against the Southern Alliance. And there will be earthquakes and famines from place to place. But all these things are the beginning of birth pangs." Matthew 24:4-8.